Hello, hello. Welcome to the place for offbeat health professionals who have bravely swapped their healthcare hats for non-clinical creative caps. I'm Caitlin, a psychologist turned copywriter, and this is Healers with Hustles. All right. So today I'm tackling another topic that probably hits home for quite a few of us, and that's perfectionism. Now, last week I spoke about imposter syndrome or imposter phenomenon, which is a related concept. Like, in fact, some people would say that perfectionism is a characteristic of imposter syndrome, as in perfectionism is like a false antidote for imposter syndrome, trying to be perfect so I don't feel like an imposter. Now, you might be thinking, well, isn't it a good thing to be a perfectionist? Well, not necessarily, because perfectionism is different from being conscientious. So, conscientious is about being like hardworking or diligent, whereas perfectionism is about setting unrealistically high standards for yourself and also others, actually, but then also being overly critical when those standards aren't met. So it's about like feeling never satisfied with your work or always thinking that you could have done better. And then also about tying your self-worth to those achievements. But where does it come from? Well, as you'll probably hear me say over and over and over again when I speak about mindset stuff, a lot of the time, like, this can come from our early childhood experiences. So potentially maybe you had teachers or caregivers who only praised you when you got top marks, and maybe fast forward to now where you're still trying to earn that gold star in everything you do. But the problem with that relentless pursuit of perfectionism is that can lead to a bunch of other issues. So generally, if something's not causing a problem, then it's not a problem. But in terms of perfectionism, when it is a problem, it can lead to, like anxiety, low mood, burnout is a big one, or it can just make you procrastinate and avoid tasks altogether for the fear of not being able to do them perfectly, which, ironically can then hinder people's performance and productivity. I heard this really cool quote actually recently, which is, being perfectionistic doesn't make you perfect, it makes you paralyzed, which I think is so, so true. And a lot of the time, perfectionism can be a mask for deeper feelings of not feeling good enough. So it's a way of protecting ourselves from that, from failure or criticism. So we think, if I'm perfect, no one can find fault with me. Whereas in reality, in our pursuit to do everything flawlessly, we end up not doing anything at all. But here's the thing, done is better than perfect. But how might perfectionism be showing up in your life? Well, maybe you're hesitant to hit publish on a new blog post because you think it needs to be Pulitzer worthy. Or perhaps you're thinking of starting a podcast, but you're convinced that you can't do it until you have the perfect audio setup, which, yeah, that is a personal example there. I can tell you that my perfectionism is for sure flared up launching this podcast, as my assistant will confirm. But it's taken me a little while to realize that, and my perfectionism for sure showed up in terms of speaking, because I'm a writer, not a speaker. And so I struggle with speaking, but it's taken me a little while to realize that how I speak, which is like full of R's and I guesses and likes and actuallys, and that's how I speak, and that's my characteristics and my little quirks. And potentially if people have a big problem, well, that might be just a reflection of their own shit and not to do with me. But how do we break free of this perfectionistic trap? Because it is a bit of a trap. As always, self-awareness and recognizing perfectionist tendencies. So do you catch yourself comparing yourself to others, or do you struggle with delegating tasks because no one else but you can do it right? And they might be signs that perfectionism is holding you back, because what is it costing you? I think is a good thing to ask. So maybe could you ask yourself, what would happen if I aim for good enough instead of perfect? And maybe embrace mistakes. If you do make a mistake or if something doesn't go as planned, it's okay, because a lot of the time, a lot of good can come out of failure. And it's just data, right? As always, be self-compassionate and talk to yourself like you were a friend. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't berate your work bestie for not being perfect. It's outrageous. And also celebrating your wins, setting realistic goals. Like me, I often have a goal which I say I want to record 5 episodes in a day, but that's not that's not accurate. Let's maybe set the bar a little bit lower. Maybe 1 is a good place to start. And maybe even 1 a week rather than one a day. So once again, healers, here's your permission slip to make mistakes, to learn and to improve as you go, and you're allowed to fuck up. It's okay, because really that real growth happens in that messy, imperfect reality of actually doing the work. All right. That's the end of another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Healers with Hustles. If you've enjoyed today's episode, will you do me a tiny favor and subscribe to the show? Just tap the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform and you'll be the first to know as soon as a new episode drops. Thanks so much for listening. Okay, ta-ta for now.